I'm Chad, and you're watching Squarebody Stuff. Hey, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today, we're going to be working on the old 454, 460 cubic inch big block Chevy for old crane puff. And what we're doing with it is we're going to be checking push rod length and actual valve lift. Before we get into that, why don't you hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, like, share, all that good stuff. All that stuff pushes these videos out in the algorithm. Hi, Tex. Tex says hi. He's warming his bones up by the fire. He's actually kind of hot. But hi, Tex. And also, don't forget to go check out my merchandise store, squarebodystuff.shop, and find you some. We got t-shirts, we got hats, lots of stickers. So go check that out. One last thing before we get into this, don't forget to check out the tailgate throwdown. That's going to be happening March 28th, 29th in Newport, Arkansas at Newport Raceway. It is a truck only drag race event that Ryan Wing from Streetcar Chronicles YouTube channel and myself have put together along with some help from other guys. Last year's turned out excellent for our first event we've ever put on. This year is looking to shape up like even better. We're hoping to have two of them, a spring and a fall run, but the spring one is coming up March 28th, 29th. We've got classes for about every type of truck you can think of, and there's also going to be plenty of grudge racing if you just want to come out and grudge race. And go to our Facebook group page, to Tailgate Throwdown, and that's where all the rules and everything are posted. See where you might fit in. Like I said, if you don't fit in anywhere, just come and show up and do some grudge racing. It's going to be a lot of fun. We had a blast last time. All right, let's get into what we're doing on this big block. First thing I'm going to be doing is checking the push rod length. Now, this is one of those things I think it's often overlooked. I used to overlook it quite a bit. I thought, you know, close is good enough. But it's something you really need to check because it not only affects, you know, power, but more so affects the longevity of your valve train. If you don't have the right push rod length, it could be pushing on your valves as your rocker arms push them down. It could be pushing on the inside or outside, and wear your valve guides out, wear your valves out. It can just wreak havoc on stuff in time, especially if you're building. Well, not especially. It doesn't matter what you're building, but on an engine such as this one's going to be in my daily driver. I'm hoping this thing's going to last several years. So I want this thing to, you know, everything to be working correctly and have the least amount of wear over time. Texas is apparently going to help me out. He usually sits right in the way. He's getting big. So I had these stock length comp cams push rods, part number 7854-16, 3/8 push rods. The lengths on them are the 8-280 and 9-252. Intake and exhaust respectively, and I was thinking, you know, they should work out, but everything on this engine is aftermarket. The heads, cam, rocker arms, all that stuff. So I wanted to make sure that it was going to work out right, and as soon as I put the rocker arms on with these push rods, it just didn't. It was bad enough I could visually see it without even checking it. So I did check everything, measured it out, and I'm going to show you how I did all that. But I checked everything out to see what length I needed, ordered up the correct length push rods. Once I found out what length I needed, I just went to Summit Racing, clicked all the filters and all that stuff and put in what length I needed, and Trick Flow had exactly what I needed. So I ordered them up, they're in. I've already checked these out and they make a perfect pattern on the top of the valve stem. But now let's get into showing you how I do that. Now, you don't really need a whole lot of fancy tools for this. About the biggest thing you'll need is a push rod length checker. I've seen guys actually take old push rods or pieces of tubing, thread them on the ends, and basically make their own. This is one that came with a set of push rods that I've ordered. So I've got this guy. If you can see, it's got different sections, so you can shorten it and lengthen it. Both ends are threaded, so you got plenty of adjustability. But what you'll do is you put this guy in place of the regular push rod and make your pattern, and then adjust this in or out to achieve the best pattern. And what I mean by pattern is on top of the valves, I'll just color them in with a Sharpie. You could probably use die-cam, but I've always just used Sharpie. It seems to work just as good about anything. Color those in, let that dry up. And then you'll install your push rod length checker and your rocker arm and make a revolution, and it'll make a pattern on top of that valve stem. And I'll show you what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, where you really want to be. So I went ahead and put the stock style push rods in, the comp cams. That should be the right length for a big block. Anyhow, put those on, and I've got solid lifters in there, so I have no give. And these rocker studs are pretty free moving, so you just run them down to they're snug. Don't have to tighten them up or anything. Make sure you're on the base circle of your cam. Adjust all the lash out of it. And right now, you can see, if I can get the same angle on both of these, you can see the difference in where the tip of the push rod or tip of the rocker arm is in relationship to the top of the valve stem. There's a lot of a valve stem sticking out on the intake. Looks like the center line of the push or the roller is towards the inside, past the inside of center line. Now on the exhaust, we got just the opposite. There's almost no valve stems showing up. So this is the first thing. As soon as I put this together, mocking it up, I seen that. It's like, uh-oh, we're gonna have to order new push rods. And roll it over a couple times to get a good mark on there. And bring it back to 0. Now let's pull these rocker arms off, and I'll show you the witness marks that it's made and kind of explain what we're seeing. I had this box back here to block all the, there's a lot going on behind that, so hopefully that'll give you a better backdrop to see what was going on. That's the only reason I had that box laying there. I'm gonna get rid of that. Now there's the exhaust valve. Hopefully it's focusing good enough to see the witness mark. And it's way past center on the outside. And typically you want your pattern to be right in the center, or maybe just a little bit to the inside, but I like to try to get them centered up. Now this intake one is a little harder to see, but you can see that it's way closer to the inside than it is the outside. Not as bad as the exhaust was, but it's still off a little bit. All right, we're gonna go ahead and remark our top of our valve stem. We're just going to do the exhaust valve, just kind of demonstrate how to use the push rod length checker. It goes in just like a regular push rod. Not rocket science here, folks. And you put your rocker arm nut on there. Now you want to start at it, you know, we knew we needed this one a little bit shorter, so I went ahead and shortened it up a little bit and install it like this. Then you roll it over, make a pattern, check your pattern, and if it's not right, you just keep doing that process until you get where you've got a really good pattern. Now it can take a while, because every time you adjust that push rod, you're gonna have to readjust this nut. That's why these poly locks are really nice, because you don't have the crimp nut on there. But same way if you have a crimp nut. But anyways, just keep doing that process until you get the correct pattern. Then once you get the correct pattern, then you measure your push rod. Now this length checker may have moved around a little bit. I haven't officially reset it to exactly where it was. But this can be the hardest thing about it if you don't have a long enough set of calipers. If you're really wanting to get a really close measurement. But really we're trying to get within 25, 30 thousandths ish. It's not, because these push rods, they usually come in like lengths, increments of like 50,000 or maybe 25,000, I can't remember. But anyhow, they come in increments, so you just got to get kind of close to one way or the other. And there is a little bit of leeway on this. So what I'll have to do is, since I don't have calipers long enough, I've honestly just ordered a set of 12-inch calipers off the Amazons, because I'm tired of doing this with these 6-inch calipers. But what you'll do, or what I do, is I measure to one of the seams of the inserts or extensions. Then you write that number down. .3629, and then you do the same thing for the other end. 5440. Then we calculate it. Actually, I'm going to round up. So we're 907. And like I said, this push rod, the checker may have moved a little bit here and there. But either way, I decided to go with the 950 80 thousandths wall push rods. These are one piece, not pressed ball fit like these are. These will be a lot more durable. I'm pretty sure they're a chromoly unit. It doesn't say on the packaging. I'm pretty sure what the description was is these are chromoly. Really good push rods, especially for a street engine like this. We don't have really super high spring pressures, or we're not gonna be running super high RPM, so these will be more than plenty. Like I said, these were the cheapest ones for the size I needed. All right, now we just roll it over. Hopefully it makes a decent pattern. Do it a couple times. You can also kind of wiggle it, make a little bit of a more better pattern on your light side. All right, the exhaust pattern didn't turn out quite as good. It's a little harder to see probably on the camera. But we've got a definite line on the back side where I wiggled it. I should have put it on the full lift and wiggled it. Maybe give me a little more defined line. But the whole travel is pretty much in the center of that valve. Now the intake is looking a lot better, a little more uniform. Now it may still be just a little bit to the inside, but I'd rather it, if I'm going to cheat it anywhere, I'm going to cheat it to the inside. But they're looking about the same. Now this is also a good time to check, make sure you don't have any interference with your rocker arms that you've chosen and your valve, your guide plates, or your valve springs, because your valve springs could come into contact with your rocker arm here in the throat. Now if it was close, you could always, you know, take a carbide burr or sanding roll or something, depends on how severe it is, and clearance it a little bit. You don't want to take a bunch of material out. If it comes down to where you're taking a bunch of material out of your rocker arms, you probably need to source a different rocker arm that's got more clearance. But a little bit of material taken away probably won't affect the structural integrity of it. So just use your best judgment there. Now in the last video to green the cam in, we checked the lobe lift, but I didn't have the heads cleaned up good enough to stick on here and do any mock-up yet, so I didn't check the max valve lift. So now we're in a position where we can do that. All right, here's my setup. Now I've got this, it's just a body fender washer that I've made fit inside this retainer, because this retainer is rounded on the top. And as that valve's going up and down, it was trying to slide to either side of that crown. So this gives me a good flat spot for the indicator to ride on. And you'll want to make sure your indicator is moving parallel or in the same direction as your valve. You don't want it pointing straight up. And since these valves are canted a little bit on the big blocks, they're got a compound angle. They're canted this way and whichever way. Yeah, they're not straight up and down. So you want to go from one side to the other, make sure that your indicator is straight in line or straight-ish. The straighter the better with your valve. And yes, still using an old crusty indicator that went through a shop fire, and it's kind of sentimental to me, so I still use it. It still works fine. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 500 thousandths. And it's supposed to be on the cam card, I think 542. And we got 543. And you can see on the cam card, we got 542 is what they spec it out to be. We've got 543. Thousandths here and there isn't going to make that much of a difference. But what's interesting is, if you watch my last video where we checked the lobe lift, or lift at the lobe, we got 316 thousandths. And if you take 316 thousandths times the 1.7 rocker ratio, we were only getting 537 as our actual lift. But that's actually called the theoretical lift. Your actual lift is what we just measured. That is exactly what the valve is moving up and down. And that's why we check these things, to know exactly what we've got. Alright, so I went ahead and checked the exhaust side the same way, and we came out right on the money at 555 actual valve lift. So I've got it on my paper here. All my camshaft specs are all dialed in and marked down on the build sheet. I'm going to add in one more thing in this video before I let you go. Now this could be another really crucial thing on checking with your valve timing and your valve train, all that stuff, is piston to valve clearance. Now depending on your combination, it may be a really tight fit. If you have really high dome pistons, a really big cam in there, and a really tight overlap or something like that, I mean, there's a lot of variables to that that could cause issues. This is a good time to really check real quick to see if you really need to get some clay out and really measure real close. But on this case, we're not going to have any problems. Starting our exhaust event, and our piston is coming up. Now let me show you here. We're coming up, and this is top dead center. This should be the closest that valve will ever be to that piston in the event. Zero that out. 100, 200, oh, about 275, which that's plenty. Usually around, I think the rule of thumb is what, 50, 75 thousandths. Don't quote me on that. Use what's comfortable for you on valve to piston clearance, but also again, you want to make sure the cutout, the valve relief, is big enough and not going to rub on it. So that's still a good reason why to use some clay to actually see the physical relationship, but at least this way you know they're not hitting at that event. You do the same thing for the intake side while you got the dial indicator set up on the intake side, just to make sure you don't have any issues. Well, I believe that covers everything I wanted to show you guys in this video. I appreciate you watching. Tex appreciates it too. He may not show up, but he does. He really appreciates you guys. And hopefully we've taught you something. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up down below, or hit me up on Facebook at Squarebody Stuff. I'm on Instagram and TikTok, so go check me out on my social media pages. You got anything for him, Tex? You want me to leave you alone so you can sleep? Okay. Oh, Tex is a man of few words, but I'm going to cut it off. Until next time, y'all keep your square bodies rolling, and we'll catch you later.